Every time I do that, it gets better and better for me. I think it's great. I kind of feel like I figured something out. Hello, Alan. How we doing, mate?
Hello, Nathan. How are you?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. So welcome to the new studio setup.
I am so excited.
Yeah, this is how it's going to be from now on. What do you think? I kind of put it together with a little bit of notice, a little bit of...
It's just great. It's just so good that you just set it up in such a short amount of time and so professional as well.
There is so much to learn about putting something like this together. Like when I did that last one, I literally forgot to hit record on two of the cameras. I messed up quite a few things. So it's just one of those things. It's a steep learning curve. I think once I get some help in, it'll be awesome.
I am your second guest.
You are my second guest on the Nathan Tice podcast. Amazing, right? Cool. So, what's happening, man? What's been going on as of late? How are things?
Wow. Okay. Yes. So many people don't know about me. I run a takeaway on Chester Bridge. Yes, we've been quite busy lately. Yeah, and doing good food, serving the local community, and yes, and just doing honest work.
Yeah, cool, man. So I'll put a little bio in the actual description of the video, where I'll talk about you and kind of where you're at and some of the things that you do. But so in running a small business in England at the moment, how are you finding things with the climate, with everything? People spending money, people not spending money. How are you finding things?
So I've been in this trade for many years, over 20 years in this trade.
You're like surely not a day over like 25. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so it's a family business, and I have been in contact with the business from very young of age.
Yeah,
and yes, I've seen the rise and the fall, and I've experienced it myself, and the change in the consumer spending. The change in the spending habit and the expectation, the wages increase, the stock the increase, the cost of sale increase, and the competitive on the online as well.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about. So obviously things are moving quite quickly with technology. Back in the day, you'd get you'd get a small takeaway that would rely strictly on one, the quality of their business, but two, the word of mouth. And three, the fact that they did like drop leaf advertising, right? So on any given day, you'd get 3 or 4 menus through your door, and you think, okay, I'm going to give these guys a try this week, and we'll take it from there. So it took quite a long time for you to build a business in years of past, right? One of the interesting things that I was reading the other day is anybody who basically has access to a computer and a kitchen and can get the business premises license, etc., can put themselves can put themselves online almost instantly, right?
Yes. So this is very fascinating in the development of the catering trade. Okay, I'm talking about the Chinese takeaway now. Yeah.
Right. Sure.
So now anybody can set up a kitchen in the garage. So as long as they can apply an account on Uber Eats or Deliveroo or Just Eat, and they can trade anywhere instantly. Yeah. And nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to know.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was literally like last week. I was walking down the street, right, and I noticed that this house had the 5-star rating. So it's a public service here in the UK locally. I believe it's the council that put it together, right? And I couldn't get my head around why they would have a 5-star rating in their window. And then I realized that they were running some sort of a kitchen out of there, and they'd put that up, whether it was for a nursery kitchen or it could have been any manner of small business, to be honest. But I was like, wow, I can't believe that someone's just thrown together, a business from their house, whether it's catering or takeaway or whatever. It's changed the landscape of everything, right? So you now have all this competition, all at your fingertips, right? You can go onto any app, any given night, and you can order anything you want.
Yes. So in the era of where we hear people promoting support your local. But what we're seeing is the complete opposite. So support your local. We're seeing more and more big name chain restaurants opening. We're seeing bigger and big names of the online platform opening. So before we got Just Eat, then we got the Hungry Horse, then we got Panda something, then we got the
different platforms.
Yes,
right?
now we got Uber Eats and Deliveroo in crew. When people say support local, where is the support? When you all go online on this app because of what? Convenient.
Yeah.
Convenience at the expense of the small business owner, family business, individual business who try very hard to compete with the big chain like KFC, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Domino's. We share the same cost as them. Right. But we are not getting the power of the brand or the power of buying. But we need to share the same expenses.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting thing about online presence these days, and how one can market themselves or their business to appear much larger than it is, but also to get a further reach. So an interesting thing that I find about retail in general, whether it's retail or food retail, is sometimes you're a victim of your location, right? So location is everything, especially in the restaurant trade, I imagine. One of the things that I find interesting about food in the UK is it's all delivered like you're in a big city anywhere. So traditionally in the States, you couldn't get delivery, or you wouldn't normally have delivery as a service unless you were in a large city, right? In a large city, there's always people delivering food. It's fine. But other places, it's not the bog standard. It's not really something that I ever did anyway growing up. We would, if we were going to order something, we would go and we'd pick it up, we'd bring it home, then we'd have it, right? So it wasn't this this kind of location issue, because you could go 15, 20 minutes away to pick up a takeaway and bring it home, right?
Yeah, so the changes I see from many years ago is the gradual increase in people deciding not to come out, not to speak to people face to face or on the phone, and people getting lazier, or they just don't want to speak to anybody.
Yeah, sure. So it's all completely, literally just mechanized convenience. You get on an app, you order what you want. I mean, this is kind of how things are going with a lot of how we live our lives, right? You conveniently get something sent to your house that you know is going to fill you up. You know it's going to taste all right. It's not always about this dream of the traditional family meal where they're all sitting around eating and they order a nice takeaway and sit there and enjoy it. I think it's a lot of convenience.
We do still get people who expect so much more from us because I think they could bully us. I don't think they could if they get a bad meal from McDonald's or KFC. The chips were cold. The chips were hard. You miss my chicken nugget. Would they go and call them and demanded your whole meal back, or you demand they send you the chicken nuggets or chips?
Yeah, I think people do. I think people do. I think that's just how it is.
But not, I don't think they do it as often as to the smaller independents.
Perhaps.
Because they feel that they could bully us in more. Because would you go to KFC and ask for a bucket of chicken and some tap water?
Yeah.
Or you buy 2 bucket of chicken and ask them for some freebies?
Yeah, I think people do it all the time, man. I see
in
people
KFC.
Doing it. Yeah, sure, I've seen people doing it, mate.
For freebies.
Yeah, I've seen people ask for here especially. I've seen people ask for a pitcher of water and like 4 or 5 cups.
No. I say for freebies. Yeah, so can I have some chicken wings for free? I just bought 2 buckets of chicken.
Yeah, I think that's all. Yeah, that's just the way it kind of is in this spectrum, right? So I can agree that as a small business owner, you are going to have to do stuff like that to compete with larger chains, and you may get. Well, actually, you do get people who want that personal attention. They're coming to you for your brand, for your food, for your whole experience. And I think that a lot of times they'll expect to be able to escalate it straight to the boss, right? Like if I'm going to McDonald's, I can't get the CEO of McDonald's on the phone at any given time, but I know that if I'm coming into your place, that I'm finding the guy who's running the show quite easily, and you're just a phone call away, right? So I think that's a general problem. I think Again, so with the landscape changing for food businesses or for say takeaways in the UK, one thing that I find really interesting is this Uber, this Just Eat, there's several different brands. I can't even rattle off the amount of different people that are doing it now. Kind of like it's almost like Amazon for food, right? You're just a middleman and you're going that way.
Yes, a middleman without responsibility.
Yeah.
So they're taking money. So they're taking your orders, giving the orders, taking the cut, and then it's up to you to sort it out.
Now, did I just hear that one of them sold quite recently, right? They were acquired?
Yes, Just Eat acquired Hungry Horse, Touch to Success acquired Big Foodie,
Right.
and then you got Uber Eats, you got Deliveroo popping up in Crew, quite active. So yes, it's a...
So these are all UK brands. I mean, I'm sure that every single country's got their own kind of things going where there are different people that are doing it all. So where do you see things going forward for yourself? Do you see yourself just operating within your space? Are you trying to convert customers away from these convenient apps that are going to come directly to you to order the same kind of things? What kind of things do you think that the industry will grow with in the future?
So in my opinion, the way forward is everybody's going to suffer. The consumer is going to suffer. Us operator is going to suffer.
Right.
Because the unnecessary commission these middle guys take.
Okay.
And this will take from your money, from our profit.
Sure, everybody pays for it, right? You pay a fee
so
for it.
where is that money comes from? So you either pay a higher prices for the same produce,
Yeah.
or I lower my quality to meet the same price.
Yeah, sure.
So there's no halfway about it.
It's lose-lose.
So the consumer is losing out. We are losing out. The only one making the profit is this middleman with no responsibility.
Yeah, super.
So why they say no responsibility? So you order from, let's say, Just Eat, and you order to Golden Phoenix, and we lost your order, or we didn't take your order, or we are very late. So you call Just Eat, where's my order? So Just Eat will tell you, you call the Golden Phoenix.
Yeah, call
direct.
those guys anyway. Yeah, call them and find out what's going on, right? They don't even have the customer service to call up and say like, here, what's going on?
So you are the middleman. I order from you. You pass my order to Golden Phoenix, and now there's a problem with my order, and you ask me now to deal with it myself.
Yeah, very interesting.
So, on the other hand, if I took an order from Just Eat, and it turns out to be a fake order, and then Just Eat say, oh, it's your responsibility to make sure that order is not fake.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
So now, what am I paying you for?
Yeah, sure.
So they argue that you spend 20% on your advertising anyway, but that's not a recurring. Now my regular customers, I need to pay 20% to you
every time they order.
Every time that they order.
Yeah, whereas traditionally you would have a marketing budget that you may hit a big campaign in January to set up your year correctly, and then you may do a little bit more marketing in June depending on how business is going.
And we retain the orders.
Yeah, you retain the orders and the
customers. So we don't need to pay that 20% every single time that they order.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a great way for newcomers just to come in without any cost to make instant business. But is it good for the consumer? Is it a long-term strategy for the operator to keep on paying maybe not 20%, but at least 15%? You don't get 15% net profit.
Yeah, sure.
So the model won't work for a good business. So it's either you're scamming off your customer, you're scamming off your supplier, you're scamming off anywhere to make the ends meet.
Yeah, sure.
It's not a good model. And Just Eat knows it. But do they care? They don't care.
Interesting.
They don't care. Because they are middlemen with no responsibility, and they're making so much money. They're making more than an airliner. They're making more than Costa Coffee, Starbucks Coffee.
Yeah, sure. And it's not just Eat. It's every single provider that's doing that particular service, right? So everybody who's in that game at the moment are all taking a piece of the pie. I think it's probably unfair to just single them out in the UK. I'm sure.
No, I think Just Eat is a monopoly for what they do in the UK market.
Yeah, really. Okay. All
yes, because Uber Eats, Deliveroo, they offer the same platform, but they also offer their drivers as an extra delivery service.
Right, sure. So that's a completely different business model, but it's still kind of the same.
Little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit different, but
little bit different.
Different. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, interesting. So just conversion, just keep doing your thing, and hopefully the industry will catch up with the consumer. You reckon it's lose-lose in the future?
It's a lose-lose. It's no point. I don't see the future as an operator myself. I just see I just want to downscale until to my limit, and I'm making okay wages.
Yeah,
and
sure.
if that wages don't come, then I myself better off going to Tesco, shelf stacking at nighttime, getting £12 an hour.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's the amount of hours that we do in the catering trade, and the wages we get, we don't even get minimum wages if you really count into that.
It's a horrible situation to be in as a private business owner, especially, when you're struggling so much to make ends meet. When you then have someone else come along, and yes, they may boost your trade exponentially. That you may increase turnover, twofold, threefold, maybe, in order to get the job done. When they take such a large part of your actual profit for their own kind of service, that's got to be like cutting off your nose to spite your face some days. I'm sure paying that bill is a tough nut to swallow sometimes.
Yes, I don't want to look at it.
Yeah,
every week. Yes, every week.
Well, I hope things change, and I hope things get better. When it comes to the whole situation, and maybe somewhere out there somebody will find a way around it. Maybe some sort of an open source or a .org, or I think that kind of thing should be open information anyway. It used to be back in the day you'd get a phone book, and the phone book would have all that information in it. Yep. I don't see why there isn't an online directory, and people may argue and say Google, etc. And it's probably the convenience of, if I go into Google, I can't find your restaurant's menu without looking through one or two extra steps. Whereas if I'm on an app, I literally click it and I find your restaurant, and just instantly jump straight into ordering my dinner. I think there's got to be some sort of an open source thing, or maybe some sort of a new collaborative, or is that the right word I'm looking for? A consortium, a co-op of restaurants that get together and do it for themselves, perhaps, and do their own apps. Maybe it's the local community. Maybe it's all of the restaurateurs in a particular city or a space, rather than paying large exorbitant fees to these middlemen, get together and say, right, okay, guys, how much is it going to cost for us to get an app? And this one-term initial marketing cost will pay us, 3-4-fold over the next 12 months to 2 years, right? That sounds to me like it just is a common sense move that I haven't seen anybody try yet, but it would be great to see something like that happen.
Yes, I think this is a very good idea, but also coupled with the local education. Just say no to Just Eat. No to Just Eat.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Support your local.
Yeah. Fuck those guys.
No to Just Eat.
No, I agree. Yeah. Cool. So wow, the good. Let's see what happens, and let's see how it changes. I mean, I think it's just a common sense thing. It's just one of those things that.
Yeah. It's just we need to get this message across to people. By ordering from Just Eat, you are damaging the local community, the local economy.
Yeah. Sure.
And you don't get anything better than going Just Eat, or you go to us directly. You don't get any special treatment when you go to Just Eat.
Yeah, sure.
Unless you get less. If they decline, or if somehow decline your order, you don't get your money back for free for 5 days.
Yeah, really. Wow.
Yes.
So one thing I haven't really considered in this conversation is this defamation of character when it comes to a large business. Can we actually talk about this kind of thing on a podcast or an app that's
Come
going
on,
out?
I thought this is a free country. For my freedom of speech.
Yeah, I agree.
Freedom of expression. This is my freedom of expression. Say no to Just Eat.
Yeah, so you're expressing the fact that it should be a movement that should happen, and I absolutely agree that it's got to be tough, man. It's got to be so constricting as a small business owner, which is what you are, right? A family-run business, second generation. You're struggling to make things happen, and then you have these fees just for getting customers that. All they're doing is just going onto an app when they could come to you direct. I think converting those customers to you directly has to be some sort of a focus.
It has been a focus for us for a couple of years. And it's proved to be very, very tough.
Yeah.
Very, very tough for the conversion. The conversion rate is very, very low.
It'd be very interesting to get some sort of a local think tank or a local organization or something like that to try it. I mean, it would be, for me, I think it would be fantastic to get a group together and just do it once, just to see if it works. Because if you can get that model to work on a local scale in a city like Crewe, for instance, right? Like, so if you look at us as an area, so like that 3.5 to 5 miles, right? How many takeaways are just in our particular city? There's got to be, what, 30 to 50?
Or maybe more than that.
Maybe more?
60, yeah, about 60.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you could get those 60 individuals all on the same page and actually do a local version of an app for ordering conveniently that is supporting those businesses, and it's actually something that you can market locally as a co-op of takeaways and restaurants, it just seems like it makes sense to me, and it'll put pressure on these particular business models that are changing the world. I mean, look at Uber, look at Expedia, look at all these other whatever travel websites, Hotel.com or whatever else. All these guys that are in the middle of this whole entire area. There has to be a better way for local people. Now don't get me wrong. I'm a slave to those apps. Like I'm on the road all the time, and I instantly will go on a middleman app to find out the best deal in a hotel. Not necessarily all the time, to be honest with you. When I'm on the road and I'm in a hotel, I have a hotel chain that I'm very particular in staying in, and I will go directly to their app in order to do it because it's the same kind of thing. But when it comes to travel, I'll never check an airline direct. I'll go on a middleman that checks very, like a very large database and finds me the right flight for the right price. But even there, the customer service that I've had when a mistake happens, or so for instance, I did some work in Ireland. And I didn't realize that when you go to Ireland, if you want to rent a car, you have to leave a hefty deposit, or you add it into the price of your rental. So when you go into this middleman website and you see, it's 64 euros to rent a car for the day, and you show up at the airport, they'll go, oh yeah, but it's 64 pounds to rent, or 64 euros to rent the car for the day, but you have to leave €1,000 deposit in case you do anything to the car. Other than that, we can add it into your price, and your 64 euro car ends up costing you 82 euro or 88 euros, which makes sense, right? From a company point of view and a consumer point of view, but it would be really nice if the middleman would tell you that before that happened. And I was in that particular situation. I show up and try to get some help. I'm standing in front of somebody who says, "I'm sorry, you haven't booked it through us. You have to contact them in order to get help." And wow, what a frustrating place to be as a consumer, right? So I would hope that maybe in the future we can come up with a better way to support local business. It's like you say, everybody always has this kind of buy local produce, right? Because if you buy local produce, it's the freshest produce you're going to get. You're supporting local farmers, you're supporting local, businesses, etc. If you could get that kind of ethos back into the everyday average consumer all over the world, I think it just makes sense. It seems like such a common sense move to me.
It makes so much sense. The money that you order from Just Eat goes to the shareholder, it goes to worldwide, it gone.
Yeah.
But if you put all your money, stay local, we buy local. We go to the local butcher for our chicken, for our beef. We go to our local veg market for our vegetables, and we support all the locals people here. So the money stay back into local, which must be a good thing. Imagine how many takeaways is on Just Eat, and how much money Just Eat is taking away from that money away from crew and the surrounding area.
Oh yeah, sure.
Every week, week by week, year on year. If that money just stay local, it must be better for crew. Must be better for everybody.
Yeah, of course. And one thing I find interesting about like Uber and all these other companies that provide drivers to deliver. So you used to be able to go to McDonald's, right? And you'd never see anybody delivered at McDonald's. And then like about 3 years ago, some local guys would take it upon themselves, like taxi drivers or maybe somebody who was having a hard time finding work, and he'd put like a Facebook ad up that would say, I'll pick up McDonald's at 4 a.m. for you, so you don't have to drive or whatever. Guys that are hustling, right? We're doing it. Now all of a sudden, right? Like there's 5 drivers on a Sunday morning delivering Egg McMuffins for £3 a pop, and they're paying. People are actually paying the same price as the actual meal to have it delivered to them. I find it absolutely amazing. That
it is absolutely amazing when people complain about £1 or £1.50 delivery charge on the local takeaway, but we're willing to pay £3, £4, £5 for McDonald's, KFC, Burger King.
Yeah, because
delivery.
they know that it's always going to be the same thing.
It's not the same
whatever
thing.
it is.
It will be crap.
Sure.
It's same thing. It's same crap.
Yeah.
Even if you go to the McDonald's, most of the time the chips are cold and hard. Anyway, McDonald's, KFC.
Yeah.
It's hardly that you go in there and get a very fresh, very nice chips. Hardly.
Yeah. But an interesting thing about it as well that I found is, so for instance, you can't order fish and chips anywhere, right? And the reason you couldn't order fish and chips pre this kind of Uber revolution or Deliveroo or whatever the business is in the UK that's doing it now, you couldn't get a chippy takeaway. You couldn't get a fish and chips delivered to you, right? Because the quality might be bad. You're going to get soggy chips. It just wasn't one of those things that you found happened all the time. Now, if I go to my local chippy, right, and get fish and chips, I literally have to stand in line with like 5 or 6 drivers that are all waiting to deliver fish and chips, and they're doing it. And I just don't see how the economics of the whole entire situation, again, in this situation, work unless it trickles down to the fact that the drivers are getting paid peanuts. They're not paying proper taxes. They're not insured. I mean, in the UK, they're definitely not going to have business insurance. 90% of these guys are going to be just trucking all over the country with their personal insurance, just delivering sandwiches on the weekend. And if they run into somebody, McDonald's has no actual claim or no responsibility for that, right?
Because
because the middleman takes that out, right?
The middleman, yes. So I don't know if I can do this legally here, but what I've heard on Uber or on Deliveroo, they teach you. You register as a biker. So
all right.
You ride what do you
a carrier, like a bicycle, right?
Bicycle.
Yeah.
So you don't need insurance.
Okay.
Okay. So you are the guy with a bag on the bike, right? But then after your registration, after you got the apps, after everything,
okay,
who knows if you're in a car
really?
or in a 4x4? I don't know. Nobody knows as long as you deliver.
So this comes down to a social responsibility, or not even a social responsibility. This comes down to the company has to take responsibility for stopping that happening. But an interesting point is who legislates that from government or from the perspective of the consumer?
They are too slow to catch up. There are 4 parties in play. There are these delivery drivers.
Wow.
They are the operator. There are the delivery drivers. There are this middleman, and this is you. The middle guy don't care. All they care is about their commission. The drivers don't care. All they care is about their delivery money.
Yeah.
You don't care as long as your food is delivered. The food operator don't care as long as they got orders.
And there's no accident. Yeah, sure, of course.
So nobody cares. And the government, how do they come in? How do they come in? Nationally, locally, where do they come in? They are too slow to catch up. They're too slow.
Well, what kind of bureaucracy do you have to put up with as a takeaway in the UK? So you have to meet local food standards,
Yes,
right? But you don't have anybody who comes in and tells you how to run your business, right?
Oh, they do.
When
When they come in, they give you stars, how the cleanliness, and have you done your homework, filling out the sheet.
Yeah, sure,
So they're asking you
All
to
the health
spend
and
more
safety stuff.
time
Yeah, sure.
to take boxes than to do actual cleaning.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And they come into a spot check once in every 3 months, and that is your your snap photo.
Right, yeah,
And
yeah.
then they give you star on that instant.
Sure.
I mean, my kitchen from the morning, it would go for probably from 5 star to 1 star, back to 5 star, back to 1 star, back to 5 star, because it's a running kitchen. It's not a showroom.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, we will have raw food coming out. We have been defrosting. We will be cutting raw meat. There will be rubbish on the floor. But we'll do the cleanup. It's not a showroom. I cannot keep the kitchen at 5 star at all time, 24 hours a day. So, but if you're unlucky, they come in at the wrong moment, then you got no star.
Yeah. Sure.
But if you're lucky, they come in, then you get 5 star.
And that's something, though, again, that's an education piece for the average consumer, right? Anybody who's cooked dinner for their family, right, realize what food prep is. Chopping veg, just sitting there doing everything, cleaning as you go, doing the whole thing. They have to realize that's something that happens. However, to go back to the original point, once you have that legislation in place, that's something they're looking at. But they're not looking at this instance of people driving around the country without insurance. So who do we put that down to? Is that the local law enforcement that should be checking all the delivery drivers they see running about? Because I can tell you this much, I don't see a police officer on the average day driving around pulling people over for anything but, I don't know, for anything, actually. I never see it. I drive all over the country. I very rarely see someone stop these days. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're understaffed, under budget.
Yeah, perhaps.
They're more interested in finding people speeding, any offenses that incur a fine. They're more interested in that than trying to really enforce the policy.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, again, we'll have to see how it goes, mate. You know what I mean?
Well, I think just it's been around for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Nearly 10 years, and now Uber Eats, Deliveroo are butting in crew.
Sure.
So yeah, we can see what's going on.
Look, there's got to be an evolution, right? Like these guys have come on with these new, these new public offerings, these businesses, this new idea, this new, concept, which is going to change the world, and it has changed the world. It's changed the actual economics of the game in so many industries, from the restaurant trade to hotels to airlines. It affects and moves markets, right? This particular.
It changed. Has it changed? I don't know. It's changed into squeezing the bottom people more drier.
Well, yes,
it's more efficient in squeezing the bottom people dry.
And that could very well be a byproduct of progress.
Yes, there's so much money to be made elsewhere, but
Yeah, right.
no. I want this little money, little change as well.
Fast and easy, and the more you get from 1,005 P's is worth a little bit, but 1,000,000 5Ps is worth a hell of a lot more, right? So it's just one of those things, I think that we'll see the evolution. Something else will come along, and whether or not that evolution is a revolution, right? It's people becoming more aware of where they get their food, how they get their food, and how it affects the local businesses.
I think they do know. I think everybody knows. Yeah, we need to look after our environment. We need to be more greener. We need to support our locals. We all know that, but when it comes to action, we don't do it.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. So hopefully, there'll be some sort of an awakening that will allow people to do that in the future. And whether that'll be driven by the consumer, whether that'll be driven by the small business, or that'll be driven by the market. Right? In my opinion, I think something will happen. I think that one of these days something's going to happen that will shift a lot of this stuff back away. But unfortunately, I believe that this information of convenience, or this time of convenience that we live in, we're driven by, I don't want to go onto Google, right, and look for, say for instance, I go to North London and I'm in Finchley and I then want to find somewhere to eat, right? What do? Do I go into Google? Do I pick up a phone book? Do I go to the hotel like I used to and see a stack of menus in the room anymore? No, you just don't see it, right? So I'm going to go onto an app. I'm probably going to look at a few reviews, and I'm going to pick one that I think isn't going to poison me and order it and take my chances, right? And I can't say that would shift for me as an outside consumer coming to somewhere. However, my local business, if I'm ordering anywhere,
then you know.
Then I know. Yes. I should know. But to be fair, even then, I think we would order loads from one of these app providers, because
points, loyalty points,
cashbacks. It might be that. It also might be the fact that if I call a place, I'm very impatient. If I call a restaurant and it doesn't answer the first time, forget it. I'm going somewhere else. So those are a whole nother set of problems that I'm sure you have to deal with all the time.
Time changes
as an individual.
Many years ago, people just after the 11 o'clock close, they would love to come in to take away, have a chat.
Sure.
Get a chicken curry and chips, and on the way home. No.
Doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen anymore. Pubs close at 12, some 1, some 2.
Sure.
Yes, and the pub do food as well. So we lost that already. We lost of that. Local loyalty, not many more. Not anymore. For some for pan or pan 50 or even free pan for delivery at your own comfort. You can sit at home. There's Sky TV. There's Netflix. It's all on your hand.
Man.
You don't need to go out anymore.
That's right.
Not like the old days where not many people have Sky. You have to go out to watch your favorite sports
You're
team.
preaching to the converted on this, man. I cannot believe. So while I've been setting this up, I've had December's always slow for my normal business, right? So I've had a load of time on my hands, and you're absolutely correct. I don't have to. If I was, what do they call it? Is it agoraphobia? Is that the one where you don't leave the house? I'm not sure which one it is. There's one of these. I guess it's a disorder or whatever, where you're afraid to go out and meet people. You're afraid to go out of the house, right? If I had that condition, I wouldn't have to go out for anything as long as I had income. If I had my income from some sort of an online source, let's say I was like the next best, I don't know, whoever one of these sex authors are, like 50 Shades of whatever, right? And I'm out there and I'm sitting at home and I've got my alias. I would not have to leave my house for anything. I can have my shopping delivered. Right, we get our shopping delivered once a week. Again, we go onto an app, hit it, boom, some dude shows up at the house with a couple of crates of our food, bring it inside, and that's it. We're done. I don't have to leave for anything. If I wanted to get an app for a cleaner to come to the house, a dog walker to come to the house, anything. It's
maybe a naked housemaid.
A naked housemaid. I'm sure there's an app out there somewhere, mate. But what I'm trying to say is you literally, at this day and age, if you have an income coming, you don't have to leave at all. You don't have to leave the house for anything, mate. So imagine being in that position where you've got all this, free time on your hands. It's unbelievable. It's literally so unproductive as far as how you can actually operate things. So this last 2 weeks, I literally have just been sitting around the house. I'm telling you now, right? I've probably played 25 hours of Fortnite a week in this time, and I have never gamed in my life. Like, so when I was a kid growing up, I was a saxophonist, as you know, right, from our previous conversations. I wasn't really into video games. My brother and my father could sit down and play Legends of Zelda for 6-8 hours. I remember them playing Doom. You know, when Doom came out. We had one of those, like, at the time it was like a $4,000 computer that you bought that could literally do like basic Word, and you could play like a couple of video games on it, right? And I can remember my brother and father playing that for hours. I just wasn't interested, right? So I have never played video games in my whole entire life until just recently. Like, I think the last video game I played was probably Mario Brothers or Legends of Zelda, like 1 or 2. I'm not really too sure. But so this Fortnite comes along, so we get an Xbox for the kids, and they're sitting there at home and they're playing it, and I'm like kind of watching and I'm thinking, this is interesting. I'll try to learn. Okay, I'm telling you now that I have been dreaming about Fortnite for the last like 4 or 5 nights. I'm that immersed in it just simply because I just have loads of time, and I'm finding myself, it's the weirdest thing. I'm like almost addicted to, I have a very compulsive personality as it is, right?
Killing.
Yeah, well, but it's not killing. It's not blood and guts. It just is what it is. Just make sure you keep this mic close to you, just because I want to make sure everybody can hear what we're talking about. But it's nuts, man. It's like I'm literally like almost addicted to this game. So I can't imagine how in this day and age, if you're a younger person, I guess to get to my point in the end, kind of long-winded, how you can find the motivation to go out and to take on life. Like, it's all so convenient. There's a phone. I mean, I'm going to sound like an old man here. On your phone, you have more information on your phone than all of civilization for the last 200-300 years.
That's right.
You can get more information as a 7-year-old child now with an iPhone or with any phone than scholars of old could find sifting through libraries for their whole entire life.
And what do they use with these technology? What do they use with all this information on hand?
It's an interesting thing. We use it to make our lives convenient. We don't have to learn things anymore. Look, I'm an atrocious speller, okay? I can't spell.
I can't spell too.
Right? But I use my phone, I use the computer, and because of that, I don't work or exercise that section of my brain, and I don't grow as an individual. It's something I have to make an honest effort to sit down and actually do correctly, right? That I have this like kind of not a dream. I've always wanted to learn a second language. You're what are you, bilingual, trilingual? You speak 3 languages?
3 languages. Well, two and a half. You got Cantonese, Mandarin. They're very similar.
Yeah, so Cantonese, Mandarin, and obviously your English, which is very good, right?
Oh.
I can barely function. I can function some places, like I know how to say "Where's the toilet?" or give me another beer or that kind of thing. I can order, like most places I've gone, like when I've been traveling around the world, I can get by. And most places, people will know English, but I got this app because I want to learn to speak Mandarin, right? And I haven't even opened it. I spent like all this money for this app, and like once I've actually taken the time to sit there and try to do it. And when it didn't work correctly the way I wanted it to, I thought, and I haven't done it again.
It's very, very difficult.
But my point, I guess, that I'm getting to is imagine the time that we live in, to where if I did want to actually apply myself and apply that information, you can go on YouTube right now and you can learn a language
and learn anything.
You can learn anything, almost anything.
Anything you want.
There's somebody to do a video, like you want to repair your car, something's broke down on an 86 Chevy Celebrity. There will be somebody on YouTube who has a video on how to fix the heater on an 86 Chevy Celebrity.
How to hack your Xbox.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's so amazing to me how much information there is and how different it all is. And these technologies that are making things more convenient for your industry, for the consumers of this world, what will the next evolution be in
Yes.
in this process, right?
We don't know.
So I know that there are people that are still very educated and that are going to school to learn to be engineers. There are people that know how to put together the circuit board on an iPhone and they realize what everything does. There are people that know how to code and to program. I just find it amazing that like our children, for instance, at the moment, like how are you going to learn to code and speak in the matrix basically by the time you're 30 or 40? You've got all this automated stuff, you've got all this artificial intelligence. Like what happens when my iPhone does all the thinking for me?
I think that is a new topic.
Is
Big
it?
topic.
It's a huge topic.
For next one, because we can talk hours on that one. Hours and hours on that one.
Well, let's dip a toe in. I think it's amazing. I personally think that it's something that excites me.
Because the question is, when do we stop? When do we say it's enough? Is it enough back 100 years ago? Yes, they said it's enough 100 years ago. Then 50 years ago, I think they said it's enough. And today, is 4G enough? Yeah, everybody say 4G is enough.
Sure.
And now we got 5G. Do we need 5G when we got 4G? And now then 6G, 7G, 8G. When is it enough?
Well, I think in some ways it's never going to be enough. But the difference between 4G and 5G, for instance, as I know it, is it's a leap. It's an exponential leap.
It's many times faster. Yeah.
So like old. This is how I understand it. Before anybody starts commenting on my video or saying whatever, right? My understanding is that previously, like 2G and 3G and 4G were kind of like radio bandwidths, right? So you had certain bandwidths were bought by certain companies, and that's why you basically could run 2G, 3G, and then 4G. The thing about 5G is the bandwidth goes from just being able to put a certain amount of data through a certain frequency, if you will, to literally sending almost whatever you want. And people are claiming that 5G, especially in most of the networks that I'm talking to, is going to change the game in how you do everything, from online gaming to anything, just automation, the whole 9 yards. So I think that kind of stuff is interesting. But
so I think that question leads to my ultimate question is, what is the purpose of life?
Right. So you're saying that AI is a big subject and we want to avoid it, and then you just exponentially jumped to what is the purpose of life?
Because when we need to assess whether it's enough.
Yeah.
We need to ask we need to determine our purpose of life first. Then we can measure against it. Is it enough?
So
is it what is the next step? What is a revolution? What is the purpose of life first?
So to go back what I was saying to what I was saying before, right? So look at me as I'm a 43-year-old man, right? And I'm trying to learn new things. I'm trying to get enough technology together to learn to edit videos, to do all these things that Olivia sits down and does, like, without even, like, even thinking about, right? Like, she will sit down and she'll edit videos and she just goes, hey, whatever, it's not that hard, Dad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this is insanity. Like, it's absolute insanity. So I find it hard to find my place in the next step, right? As a businessman, as a provider for my family, I want to see where the best place to be in the next 10 to 25 years is. And the only thing I can think to myself is I must have to retrain to do something else so that I can see the matrix, so that I can see how to do it. Like, I've sat down, don't get me wrong, as in starting a business, I've learned to code, I've learned to operate WordPress websites, I've learned basic stuff, right? But I can't functionally do anything without accessing the greater amount of information that's on YouTube, right? I figured out how to do everything that I wanted to do by watching other people do it. So what a fantastic time to...
So Nathan, I think this is a big wake-up call. Big wake-up call. We have fallen into the trap. We are, like you say, Olivia, all our kids, they know everything. TikTok and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, all this stuff, yeah.
But we are all fallen to be the victims of a consumer product. We are never going above this matrix.
So to go back to it, when do you stop? Where does it stop? So for me, I think it stops with health. Like I've gone talk and text on my phone now. So I've taken apps off of my phone, things like Facebook. I find myself waking up in the morning wanting to check my Facebook just to see what's going on. Just whatever, right? So I've made a conscious decision that rather than always being hooked into this information, I want to just draw back a little bit. I don't want to be able to order. If I want to order food, I'm going to have a number in my phone, and I'm going to have to phone the proprietor, and I'm going to have to find it out.
Yeah.
But I'm making that decision to try and slow down, because it's nothing for me to sit there at night with a drink or whatever on my laptop, looking up information, watching TV. The kids and the family are all here, and I'm literally doing 4 things at once, and I'm not just enjoying the now and the moment. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope that the next evolution in this whole thing is a kind of a return to calm, a return to this Zen of life, if that's the right word. Zen, peaceful, whatever, tranquility. I would love for the next transcendence of our consciousness to be not only scared of technology, but embrace technology in a way that you understand it, and you understand that it has a function in life. So I don't know if I'm different than other people, but I don't do that now.
Well, I think the idea is great, but you're fighting against a big force that do the complete opposite. They want to enslave people by their technology. They want to enslave people by their apps. They want you to be addictive to your TV, to your mobile phone, to your iPad.
Well, look, yeah, and then the thought that I just had while you were saying that is, here we are on a freaking podcast, and I've learned how to put a podcast together.
Yes, because we want to spread this message.
Yeah, so I'm now putting myself in the situation where I'm adding to the I guess the emotional clutter of the universe, right?
Oh yes, well, not being hypocrites, but we do realize we use the technology, but we realize the damage that it could cause.
Yeah,
we recognize it, and we do take precaution. We do stop ourselves, limit ourselves. We do not get ourselves into the addictive routine, and that now the youngsters are. What now? They don't want to go to meet friends. They want to take. They want to take TikTok video to see how many likes they get.
It's nothing for me to see all of the local neighborhood kids over at the house. So I always have everybody over to the house, and I love it, right? I can't tell you the amount of times I've seen 5 or 6 kids in one room, all on their phone, talking to each other on the phone, messaging each other, messaging apps right there. They're literally as close as we are together. And I'm going, yo, what's going on? And they're like, I don't know what's going on. And they're messaging each other all at the same time. It's unbelievable. It's
unreal to us, isn't it? When our youth is, we go out, let's hit the park, get something to eat.
Yeah, but
hit the malls.
I suppose this is what some cultures have problems with technology addiction, right? I think even in the UK, there was it only last year that the video gaming clinic was opened up for video game addicts or for technology addicts or something like that. I seem to remember the NHS opening something. In Korea, right? They're battling massive problems with youth being addicted to screen time, I guess they call it. It's and it's unbelievable what it does to your eyes and to your health and all this stuff. I mean, when you're staring at a screen all day long, you're actually damaging your eyes essentially, because your eyes aren't meant to look at artificial blue light that's being,
Oh yeah, that the many cases in China in an internet cafe, people actually died playing the online video games continuously for 2 days, 3 days.
Oh yeah, sitting there like getting amped up on energy drinks and stuff like that.
So many cases.
Yeah.
And how did the government control it? If they do control it, is it a breach of their human right? Yes. But if you do not control it, what is the damage on the whole society as a whole generation? Where now your 6 years old demand a mobile phone, you are addicted. your teenagers are addicted. Now your kids are addicted.
Yeah, sure.
So what is the future when we are all slave by
So,
this technology?
there's something like, how many people are in China?
1.4 billion.
That to me is astonishing, right?
It is. What is 1.4 billion means? What is 1.4 billion? It's a that number. It's unapprehendable. The numbers.
Now, am I right in thinking that in China, for how long has it been that you can't have? Can you have as many kids as you want if you're in China, right? Can you have a large family, or I'm just assuming you might know because
Yes, I know. Well, I want a toilet break.
Okay, take a toilet break. I'm going to talk aimlessly for the next minute or two.
You can video cut it.
No, I don't know how to do that yet. This is what I'm talking about. So
I'm not going online with this toilet break here.
No, go ahead. I'm going to ramble. You just don't knock anything over on the way out of the studio. I mean, for me, right? It's such an amazing time that we live in. What a wonderful time to be alive, because you have all this information at your fingertips. You have so many things that you can learn and do, and it literally is just being time rich enough to actually take on the things that you want to achieve, right? We've all got dreams, we've all got aspirations, whether those are to just take care of a family, to take care of your local everyday average business, to take care of your kids, to take care of yourself, for God's sakes. It's hard getting up just taking care of personal hygiene for some people, right? Today is just such a fantastic place to be, right? It's such a fantastic time to look at the world around us, and a scary time. It's scary as hell. You don't know what's coming tomorrow. You're always like basically in the jungle waiting for a bear or a tiger to, sounds like something dropped in the back of the studio there, to come and bite your head off, right? Because that's what it feels like. It feels overwhelming. It feels like survival of the fittest. But if you can get your head around all that clutter and all this stuff that we're talking about, what a fantastic time to actually be alive. You've got all this information at your fingertips. You can learn whatever you want to learn. You just have to have enough kind of gumption to actually do it. Right. Okay. So that was like the quickest bathroom break I've ever seen. You managed to go to the bathroom and grab a beer all in that time.
I did.
Very talented. Right. Let's get back to China. Right. Okay. So sorry, I waffled there for a little bit. I got philosophical about what a great time it is to be alive, because I absolutely believe that it's a fantastic time to be around.
You're so surprised how much I learned from the internet.
Yeah.
For my spare time, I've learned hydroponic. I've learned the gardening. I learned allotment.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mushroom growing, mushroom identifications, worms grow.
You haven't learned how to fish any better from the internet, though, unfortunately.
I've learned a lot of techniques, and I've learned how selfish all the anglers are.
Yeah, so a little bit of background on that. Alan and I have been on several fishing trips, deep sea fishing, where we've gone out with the aspirations of Captain Ahab trying to catch Moby Dick, and we've come back on our way to Iceland and farm foods to buy frozen fish sticks. It happens. It's part of the hunt, I suppose. But yes, yeah, you can, if you can self-educate, what a great place to be, right? If you have that ambition.
Great.
So okay, so back to China.
Okay.
They have had laws to prevent population growth, correct? Or
yes, I think it's a generalization. So the one-child policy was enforced in the 80s.
Right. Okay.
80s, and only in the urban area, city area. So
now, again, is that because those are the only places where they had government officials to check these kind of things, or
because when the Communist Party won the civil war and took over, China was very, very poor.
Yeah.
Very, very poor. No resources, no food, no nothing. And they reckon if the population is going unchecked, they would have another famine, and the whole country will be in a disaster.
Wow,
humanitarian disaster. So because it's a socialist communist country, your healthcare, your education, your everything is sponsored by the state.
Okay.
So it's only fair. They give you as a human right. Yes, you allow children They give you one. And there are penalties if you have a second one. Or if you can afford it, you can have second one.
Right. Okay. So it's a monetary thing.
So I think the communists, the word communist, scare a lot of people. It's a Cold War era mentality where there is a democracy against communists. Communist is always branded as the evil country. Mm-hmm. But the communists, if you look at it in terms of the ideology, it's not essential. It's not evil.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
The ideology, if it's enforced perfectly, is a very good system. But anyway, so China decided they have this one child policy that only applies in the urban area, in the city area, excluding the ethnic minority, which is for people who don't know, that China makes up of 56 ethnic groups.
Right. Wow. Okay.
56 ethnic minority. The biggest one is Han Chinese. Which is the mainland China, including Hong Kong, the Han Chinese.
Right.
But there are also other 55 ethnic minorities around.
Interesting.
So the ethnic minorities are excluded in this one-child policy.
Right.
And also the farmers, on the rural area. But this is the funny thing is the Western media don't want you to know. They just want you to know that there's a one-child policy. It's a very strict, very brutal regimes. But for China itself, they know the struggle. They know what they have to face. They know that they have to plan. And did the plan work? I think they did. So 20, 30 years now later, I think you see the success of the planning of the population restriction. It worked.
Right.
And I think the work they've done over the past 3 decades, which lifted about 700 million people out of poverty, and they are going to trying to eliminate all the poverty by next year.
That's crazy. That's insane, isn't it? I mean, when you look at 1.4 billion people, and they are actually so okay. So I'm a layman when it comes to how things work, obviously in China, and to be honest with you, how communism even works. But my understanding is basically it's the people taking care of the people, right? But with the direction of the government.
Yes. So essentially, is the people elect a government. The government will use all the power. They've got quite a lot of power, but it's like central planning for the economy. There's no free market. A lot of the big business are state-owned.
Right. Yeah.
And they will do it for the benefit. For the people.
Now, an interesting thing that I'd like to ask you then is, because I find this very interesting. I notice myself being from what essentially would be 2 Western countries. So I live in England. I've lived in England for a long time, but I'm American, as you know.
Yep.
I find it so fascinating that there's such a difference in the news that's reported from the English side and the American side and the U.S. side, right? On anything. I don't care what it is. There's so many gaps left in all the stories. There's so many takes on the same situation sometimes. I'll give you an example. So last year, as you know, I spent some time working away, right? And I was in Brussels with a friend of mine, and we were I think it was Brussels actually, or it might have been Brussels or Antwerp. It was somewhere like this, right? And we were in the middle of a square where there were probably 4,000 people, all sitting out at all these beer gardens, having a wonderful time. No cares in the world. No fighting, no anything, just absolutely fantastic. And all of a sudden, my phone starts blowing up. and it's my parents, and they're going, "Oh, there's a bomber that's right there where you're at, who's wearing a belt and who's going to blow up the train station and this and that." And I've got all my family from England are calling, and they're going, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm looking around, right, and I'm telling you, it was the most peaceful, joyous, tranquil scene you'd ever seen in your life, right?
Really? So where did they get the news from?
But they were getting this information from the news sources that were reporting all this stuff happening before they actually had everything set and ready to go. It turns out in the end it was like a trash can fire or something like that, and through word of mouth, it had all changed, right? So that's an example of the I guess immediacy of the news, but also of the different stories that you might see when it's heard through the grapevine, right? So, not to harp on this, but let's look at the English election last week and the pictures of this Diane Abbott, okay, with two left shoes on. And everybody's going, "Oh, it's photoshopped, it's this, it's that." Within an hour of that picture being photoshopped or taken, it was on 6 or 8 different news sources on the internet that were supposedly reputable newspapers or organizations in the UK as being a factual story that she'd gone out and she'd done this when potentially it never even happened. Okay. My father will ask me about things that are happening in England sometimes, and I'm like, "What are you even talking about? I don't even know what are you talking about, man? I don't even know what you're on about." Like he'll ask me about, some terrorist suspect or something that's going on, and it'll be certainly, and he'll go, "You didn't hear?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I didn't hear." And okay, now I'm not the most hip and trendy, up to date dude who's always on the internet or always reading the paper or always on Google trying to find the next best thing, but I think my social network is large enough to where I hear if large stories are amongst us, right?
Yeah. So I want to you want to say something about it.
Yeah. So that gets me to my point. So I was going to ask you. So how do you find it being from a country that's in the West? And also then I know for a fact that you're always, as you stated earlier, you're always on the internet. You're always looking at stories about China, about Hong Kong in particularly lately. How do you find it? Oh, please elaborate.
Yep. So people tell me, people always say, China, censored, communist, brutal regime, people have got no freedom, there's no freedom of speech, there's no human rights, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Then people tell me how the Western media are so fair, unbiased, impartial, blah blah blah, so professional. Because they are independent, and they can say anything they want. But in reality, what we see is in the country, we will see these Western media, they have got their own agenda. They have got their own narratives to push. For example, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, that this truck of supposedly Chinese national trying to smuggle in from France through a frozen truck.
That's right. Yeah. I saw that.
And all the media jumped into conclusion that they are all Chinese national. And why? Because they could use it to attack China. So when they were having the Chinese media conference in China, they questioned the ambassador. Say, if China are so good as you suggested, how come people are dying to come to our country? Right. So they use these tactics.
So that story, that was the English version of that story, or that was the Chinese version of that story?
I think CNN version.
CNN. Okay. CNN so perhaps even the American version of the same story. Yes. Right. Fine. Go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
So this is the tactic that I see. They will jump in the conclusion. You will see like the Uyghur, the Xinjiang concentration camp.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
In every article that they run, you will find the word apparently, supposedly, estimate, according to experts, believed to be.
Sure.
So these are all creative writing. There is no single shred of proof. They will have expert witness that supposedly have been tortured, shaved, beaten, but then they are now fine, fat, and now in a Western safety.
Right.
It's the same. It's the same again and again. They use the same tactic again, like Iraq, Iran, North Korea. They use the same tactic again, but people buy it. People just buy it because people will buy the first story. And then subsequently, when they say, "Oh, sorry, they are not Chinese Sentinel, they are actually Vietnamese," but then they are on a very small section.
Sure. They find out more information, and the story then becomes less of a story than it was yesterday.
Exactly. So they are not interested in the correct the truth. They're interested to push the narratives.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think now the biggest agenda is on this trade war between the U.S. and China.
Oh, I mean, it's unbelievable. Like some of the stocks I follow and some of the things that I'm involved in. I mean, most of the companies I deal with China, and man, there are days when there's whispers of Trump doing whatever with the trade war, and you will see the market flying. And who knows? I'm sorry if I cut you off there.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So with regards to that.
Yeah. So you will see from the build-up of all the negotiation and on the agreements and on the first phase, second phase, this and this, you will see the China bashing article from rhino horn, shark fin, panda, I don't know,
Sure.
anything. So I think now, latest for the last 6 months, obviously Hong Kong is a big agenda.
I was going to ask you specifically about that.
Xinjiang is a big thing as well. Although the majority of Muslim country, they support China's policy, and China invited them to come and have a look into their supposedly concentration re-education camp that holds supposedly believed to be 1 million people.
Yeah.
I think 1 million people. Use your brain, people. How big of a facility is it to hold 1 million people? How many staff do you need to look after 1 million people?
Yeah, sure.
And it's so secret that everybody knows. So I say sometimes I think people just it's a confirmation bias. They say they're not brainwashed. They accuse other people being brainwashed. But
now, are we talking in general, or are we talking about in the West? Are we talking about in China?
I think everybody.
Everybody.
I think everybody. Yes, I think everybody. We are brought up in a system.
Right.
We have got education system. We go through. We watch our news. We watch our media. I think everybody is brainwashed in a way.
Sure.
But you cannot claim to be unbiased, impartial, and other people being brainwashed just because you're brainwashed.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. I think we are more clever, better than we used to be now. I think we need to be more sophisticated.
You mean in how we process the information that we can find?
Exactly. We need to be skeptical.
Oh, okay. So with that, can you give me your understanding? Because I know you still have family in Hong Kong.
Yes.
I know that you keep on top of actually what's happening. Can you just explain in kind of simplistic terms what actually is happening there with a little bit of the history about what's happening? Because my understanding is this goes back to, when England left Hong Kong to its devices, etc., and it goes way back. Can you just kind of run us through that, please, just so I understand it better?
Fine. So I won't go too far.
That's fine.
I'll go 6 months. Well, 6 months back then, just before everything happened. So 7 months ago, a Hong Kong guy went to Taiwan with his girlfriend.
Right.
And I think he found out she's pregnant, and he killed her in Taiwan.
Okay.
He then disposed her body in a suitcase in Taiwan somewhere.
Jesus.
And he fled back to Hong Kong.
Right.
So subsequently, he got caught in Hong Kong. But apparently, Hong Kong's law don't have this extradition treaty with Taiwan, Macau, and mainland China.
Fine.
So the CEO chief then, the Carrie Lam, she suggested for amendment of this extradition law to cover Macau, mainland China, and Taiwan to close all the loopholes.
Yeah, because you don't want to just have loads of criminals coming to Hong Kong to chill out after they've committed crimes, right? Yeah, it makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So then the reactionaries, I think they call them pro-democracy party in China,
right?
In Hong Kong. Then they spin it in a way that, oh my God, this amendment in this extradition treaty is going to allow China to request anybody in Hong Kong back to China for arbitrary crime.
Right. Yeah. So if I got a parking ticket in Shanghai, they're gonna extradite me from.
Not even that. They say China can make up any crime and ask Hong Kong to give people
Right.
back to China for. Anyway, so they succeeded into trying to get many people. They say 2 million people. I doubt it's 2 million people because it's mathematically impossible to have that 2 million people on that street on that day. But even if that's 2 million people, they have opposed the extradition treaty. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing more.
So this was the start of all these riots that we now see.
Yes.
Right. So this was the initial concern of the campaign, if you will, of the people. Right.
This is the history of the
Right.
this
So this was
riot.
the first thing that they had in mind.
Yes. So they claim they had 2 million people that opposed this extradition treaty. But Carrie Lam maybe she didn't listen. She tried to push it through to the parliament, similar parliament, for debate. But then it evolved. Then they spin it even further. Carrie Lam, don't listen to us. Carrie Lam, don't listen to the people.
Right.
Carrie Lam, this government disrespect the people's will. And Carrie Lam used the police. The police used the brutal force, too much force to the people.
So as an afterthought, they've come up with loads more concerns as to what their movement is about.
For my opinion, my personal opinion, they use this as an excuse. They are planning on this revolt, this color revolution anyway.
Right. Okay.
So any excuse that they can find, they just use it and spin it. Because to you and me, to any normal person, to think, to close the loophole, that you got the loophole, Hong Kong got a loophole on this extradition law.
It's common sense.
It's common sense to close it.
It would seem it is common sense.
So you're telling me that I could bring anybody that I want to kill to Taiwan, I kill him in the hotel room, fly back the same day to Hong Kong, and I am free. This is a loophole. There is a gap in this law. If you say Hong Kong is a land of the law, rule of the law, then justice must be done. Justice must prevail. But now you got 2 million people out on the street to protest against it. That is just doesn't make sense.
Okay, so that was 6 months ago, roughly, right? What in the hell is going on now? Why is it something that we're still seeing? What is the and again, if you don't know this, that's fine. But what, in your opinion, is the catalyst for continuing the movement, and what is the actual end game from both sides, from both parties?
Sure.
So both parties meaning the government and the movement.
Sure. So subsequently, after the initial protest, big protest, they came up with the 5 demands. The 5 demands. So the first demand is the withdrawal of the of the extradition amendment of the extradition treaty.
Yeah.
The second one is to withdraw the branding for they are not a riot. They say they are not a riot.
Right.
So the third request was to release all the one arrested and get pardoned.
Okay.
Yep. Then the fourth one, I can't remember. No, yes. So the fourth one, they want universal suffrage now. So basically, they want Carrie Lam to resign, the government to be dissolved, and then they re-elect the government again.
Right. Okay.
So then the fifth one is the independent inquiry into the police brutality.
And will
Okay.
they get that?
So when we accuse people of something, what do we need? We need facts and evidence.
You would hope. Yes.
So when you accuse Hong Kong's police is brutal, there are brutality, they use excessive force, then we need to look at what the Hong Kong police did over 6 months. 0 casualty, fatality.
Right.
3 gunshot or 4. 3 or 4.
You mean the police shooting someone or the police
Yes.
being shot?
No, police shooting someone.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So 3 shots.
And
Three-
are the police armed in Hong Kong? I know
yes,
it's a silly question. But,
all the police is armed.
right. Okay. Fine.
Yeah, with real life ammunition. So
I didn't know if that kind of carried over from
Yep,
England.
so
and you got a bunch of
zero fatality.
right. Fine.
3 gunshots. 6,000 arrests in 6 months.
And how many people in Hong Kong? Sorry,
7 million.
7 million. So okay.
Yep. So the statistic showed us Hong Kong police are useless. They're so weak. They are a bunch of amateurs compared to the UK, US. Look at the umbrella revolution 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Occupation Central, 79 days. How many days did it take in UK? How many days did it take on the Wall Street? 3?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So in comparison, Hong Kong police are so weak. They are amateurs.
But yet being accused of
Brutality.
brutality. That's your point, right? You're
That's my
trying.
point, yeah.
What you're trying to say is that the cats obviously. Well, but that's not to say that it doesn't happen though. So this is an interesting point. So as far as news that you get from your Chinese sources and news you get from the West, are you hearing consistent stories?
Yes. So although the West media will concentrate their efforts, concentrate on the footage on the police beating up the protesters, but the figures won't change. There's 0 fatality.
The figures are the same.
The figures are the same.
story is a little different, but the figures are the same.
Exactly. So
Right, I see.
they won't show the protesters throwing petrol bombs, shooting arrows,
Right.
slingshots, bear borings, setting fires on people.
Wow.
Yep, throwing bricks at people who killed a man last few weeks ago. They don't show those kind of brutality from the other side. So this is what I'm trying to say is there's no media that is unbiased. Every media are biased. They all have got their narrative to push. So it's not that simple for people who say, I support Hong Kong, I support their fight for freedom, I support their fight for human rights. I ask them, what freedom does Hong Kong people don't have?
Yeah. What is it you're actually fighting for?
What human rights has been eroded by policy from China? I asked them many, many times. People they just can't answer.
So is it a mob mentality? Is it all just boiled over and people just want an excuse to go out and let off some steam?
No, well, yes, it's a slogan. It's just a slogan. It's a fantasy. It's a fantasy for them.
Wow.
They say, oh yes, democracy, democracy, democracy. When you repeat it 1,000 times, it becomes a fantasy. It becomes in your head that democracy will give me a better living. But in fact, that democracy is just a word. It's just a slogan. It means nothing.
Right. So I want to just back up just 1 second. So you have a system that's left over from the English rule in Hong Kong, right? Mm-hmm. A parliamentary system with a democratic vote.
Yes.
So when you are stating that the people are wanting democracy, can you elaborate on that for me? Just because I don't understand.
Right. So they have got democracy. They have got their local election. They have got half of the parliament election. The other half is the special election from their smaller group, function groups.
Right. Okay.
That makes up the legislative council.
Right.
So in effect, they have got more democracy when they were under the British colonial times.
Right.
No one in the world have got this full democracy with this full universal suffrage. Even in the UK, we don't get to vote our prime minister.
Correct.
Even in the US, you don't get to vote for your president.
What do you mean by that?
One people, one vote for the president. So that's with what Hong Kong is demanding, that they have got a few candidates, and then everybody's one vote to vote for their CEO.
So what you're saying is, well, so in America, we vote for a president. We vote for a president that's a part of the party, right? So this was one thing I kind of talked about on the last podcast, and one thing I have a hard time getting my head around still in the UK, which is you're basically voting in a party and their policies, and within that party, they can elect their leader. Whereas we kind of have our preliminaries and our, I guess it's secondaries or whatever, where the parties will then decide who's going to be their horse in the race, if you will, right? So essentially, the party still is making the decision, but it's pre-election rather than post-election, right, or after the election. So you know who's going to be running the show, and if that guy's not running the show, it's the vice president, and then so on, right? So when you say that like that, then I guess I kind of
it's
don't understand.
It's not a direct vote that you got Al Gore and.
Well, it totally is. Like in the next election, it's going to be Trump and whoever else is running against him. And that's all
so you're not really directly one people. So what they're asking for is a dual universal suffrage. So on one hand, you're electing all your MPs.
Yes.
And on a separate election, you are electing for your president, prime minister.
Right, fine.
So that is their dual universal suffrage.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm with you now. I'm with you.
So anywhere in the world, they don't have it.
No, right. You don't have a policy where you would elect to, because it's confusing. How are you gonna do that correctly when it comes to polling the people's wants and wishes when one party's already in policy, and you can then say that there'll be a different. You're kind of asking someone to weigh the checks and balances and then make a decision based on hearsay or the final outcome, what they think is going to happen. So I've put a Democrat in charge here, so I'm going to then put a Republican there, and I'm going to let them hash it out because then they'll do what's best for us as a people. Right? You see what I'm saying, right? That kind of is what it is, right? Or am I wrong in saying that?
It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, so I'm going to need to look into this because I don't understand it. I don't understand that.
I think it's all just an excuses. It's just another excuse that the reactionaries want to put their people in. But under the system now, China will not let a traitor to be able to qualify to become a candidate. That's what they're arguing for now.
Sorry, so that's a completely different subject. So what do you mean by that? China won't let a traitor.
So now the CEO system now is the China will have like a pre-selected candidate,
Okay.
and then for a selected group of 1,200 people committee to vote for the next CEO for Hong Kong.
Right. Okay. I see.
So there are criteria to go in for the first place, and there's a small group of committee to vote for that leader. But how much power does that CEO hold really? As you can see for the past 6 months, not much.
Well, it's not a checks and balance system. It's a dual system, right? Instead of having 3 parties, so the Senate, the president, and, right? Am I right in saying that? Yeah. No, you don't know what I'm saying.
Not in Hong Kong. No.
So there's no checks and balances. There's not the one doesn't have to go through the House, doesn't have to go through the.
No, not a CEO, because CEO doesn't hold that much power.
So is the CEO akin to the New York City mayor?
I tell you, I don't know. I don't really know what she is capable of. She has got some power, but I think a lot of time is the political correctness to use it or not.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I'm getting confused here because when we're talking about this, I'm looking at Hong Kong, and I guess I'm making it akin to a national election. So a government of a country, when in fact, what we're talking about here is we're talking about, well, they run a separate government, correct?
Yes, they do, yeah.
They run a separate government to China, but you're talking about a 7 million person large city, basically, right? Which
Yep.
is, I'm assuming that's smaller than London and smaller than New York, right?
I think it's just about same as London.
So
Yep.
the CEO or CFO or whatever the term is, she is essentially a mayor.
A mayor.
Right. So that makes a little more sense to me now than what we were talking about before, because before I was splitting it into a situation where you were going to elect a government, and that government was going to make all the decisions for the people. But what you're saying essentially is not only are you electing a local government, you then are going to elect a mayor of the city who has to work with the local government. So it's like you're basically you're putting together a local election for your local taxes, your local everything.
I think your understanding span on. Although Hong Kong runs a separate system, they say it's one country, two system, right?
Right.
But at the same time, Hong Kong is left with the colonial time government from the British.
Yes. Okay. So that little bit of understanding is important.
So the colonial time governments are there to be administrative only.
I see. Okay. Fine.
There's no power whatsoever because they are just here to follow orders.
Okay. It's going to be a very interesting situation
Yes.
for our people.
So the changes now after the hangover and
And the handover was when again?
1997.
Yeah, I was going to say it was like late.
Yeah,
90s,
22 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's still so infant in its history, right?
Yes, you can say that. But we have seen good times, bad times of the SARS epidemic. We have seen the world financial crisis, and Hong Kong prevailed.
Right. Yeah.
Because of the backing of China. China have helped Hong Kong. China have bent backward to help
through
Hong
the
Kong.
transition, yes.
So anybody can tell me over these 22 years, what did China do to Hong Kong to damage it, to limit it, to take advantage of it? No one can. No one can.
I mean, to me, it sounds like a boiler room situation, right? So you've got a people, so Hong Kong, and again, this is an observation from the outside looking in. It's got to be like anywhere else, any large city on the planet, right? So I'm assuming that in Hong Kong, the average dude or the average family can't support themselves. They're working 2-3 jobs each. If you have a child, it must be extortionate. I mean, the real estate in Hong Kong is like you're buying a room that's like smaller than this studio, right? For over $1 million, right? Or dollars US, I'm assuming.
I think they're talking about £2,000 for square feet.
£2,000 per square foot.
Per square foot, yes.
That's a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So for 150 square feet room, you're talking about 300 grand.
That's nuts.
It is nuts. And the wages are not catching up.
Well, what is this? This room's got to be similar to that, right?
Yeah, 120 square feet. Yes.
Wow.
So I say so just cut the long story short, very short. The real grievance. What is Hong Kong's grievance? What is Hong Kong's problem? It's not the communists. It's not handing back to China. It's not the extradition treaty. It's about the monopoly. It's about the product of pure unchecked capitalism.
Right. Yeah. Because it's now so expensive to live and to.
So the wealth gap has increased so much that people are the quality of their life are decreasing.
Something's got to give.
A family are living. Imagine spending 300 grand on a 150 square feet house for a family of 3-4.
Yeah, nuts.
When you're taking
and you're talking about kitchen, living space,
everything in a 150 square feet
nuts.
room.
Yeah, wow.
And you're taking home what 36 grand a year.
Yeah.
That is a real problem. That is your real grievance, Hong Konger.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not about going back to British. No, it's not like this. It's not about freedom. It's not about democracy. It's about the inequality. It's about this monopoly. It's about this elite, this big corporate colluding with the government.
Wow.
That is a real grievance. Long hours, low pay. Yeah, but this is what you want really. Do you? Unchecked capitalism, free market. Isn't it? This is the freedom that you want, or do you want the government to step in to control it for you?
Now, am I right? Did I read recently that also within the last 6 months, the Hong Kong Exchange have put in a bid to buy the London Stock Exchange, right? As well.
Yes, that is so strange. That is so strange, and I don't know what that move is. I tell you that the media has dumbed it down. They just took no notice of it.
It was like one story for like one afternoon.
Yes,
and then
they put a bid on London Exchange, turn it down. But like you say, this is a big story. How can Hong Kong in a position to take over their old masters' stock exchange?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
That is a big move. That is a bold move. And why on that timing? I need to find out. I need to do some research on
that. And if there are any listeners who would like to elaborate on that for us, please get in touch. Just direct message me on Twitter at Nathan Tice.
But do you know I think the response were in London were that we are now we treasure the trade with China, with Shanghai, with Beijing, much more than Hong Kong.
Wow.
I think that I've read it somewhere there. That's why they turn it down. One of the reasons they turn the Hong Kong Exchange down, because the trade that they do with Shanghai is much more.
Would be affected much larger than that. Yeah, it's one of these things that the consistency of the news and the stories that you see, it's not always the whole story. And again, I know I probably will harp on about this way too much, but it's one of the reasons why I want to sit down and just talk to people who have a better understanding about it than I do, because there are so many things in my own existence that I would love to be passionate about. I would love to have an opinion about, but I just don't know enough about it.
Yeah, see, I think in such a short session,
you just can't.
You just can't get in depth into the.
Man, it sounds like we could talk about it. We could talk about this for hours and not even scratch the surface of the whats and whys.
But I want to get into the people. If we want to have a real serious debate, there must be somewhere in reality that we can have a peg in, and then we can measure against it.
Well,
sometimes there's your opinion against my opinion. Yes, you can have your opinion. I
Sure.
can have my opinion. But when it measure to reality, then we can decide what is right, what is wrong.
Now, I know things aren't always black and white like that, but in this particular instance, have both sides put clear-cut demands and compromises forward?
Well, it's Hong Kong. The situation in Hong Kong is very strange. Even to me, the government has been very weak in responding. The police has been very weak in dealing with the rioters. They seem just that let them run. They are teenagers. They just let them channel their anger. Let them destroy the city. Let them set fire. Let them throw some petrol bombs. Let them hit some civilians. Let them block the airport. Let them derail a train. I don't know. I thought that they could do a much more harsher, but very interesting when you mention check and balance, because when I had a debate with someone back ago, they say the Western system, the benefit of this Western system is the check and balance. Are there check and balance? Are there seriously check and balance in the Western democracy?
That's a whole different kettle of fish.
So
really, isn't
we
it?
could have a session on that one. Because in Hong Kong, I tell you, apart from the local election, the legislative council, the CEO, we also got lifetime appointed foreign judges sitting on our high court.
Wow.
So check and balance.
It's just not going to happen, is it?
When you have got lifetime appointed, so in Hong Kong, they seriously that you could fuck the CEO, you could fuck Xi Jinping, you can fuck this, fuck that, but you can't fuck the judge. You can't question the judge's decision. If you question the judge's decision, you go to jail. So the judge is higher than the Chinese premier. The judges is higher than the CEO. Check and balance.
And
they are unelected.
how are they unelected? So
How can they be elected?
This is from the last regime. This is from the English.
This is from the English system.
And so this is only a lifetime thing. And once all these old codgers,
So they're elected in an even smaller group of the lawyers, their own circle of judges that pass on to the new
What?
judges. Yes, and they could be foreign. They don't need to be a Chinese national. And
Wow.
so I was like, well, how come nobody complain about that?
That's insane. That throws a whole different dynamic into the whole entire conversation. So irrelevant of whatever the outcome of new elected CFO, new elected government officials, new elected everything, you're telling me that this, I don't know, for lack of a better term, old boys network still runs the whole entire show in Hong Kong.
Exactly.
And they can't be voted out by the people.
Nope.
But again, this is why people are crying for democracy, right? Because they'll never have true democracy with these guys in charge.
No,
Right?
no.
I'm getting the wrong end of that.
You got one of that. That's why I'm surprised. Nobody's
even mentioning
Nobody even
the
questioned
judges.
about the judges. When the judges are the most undemocratic objects in question.
Wow, that's crazy.
Hong Kong needs reform. I think every country needs reform.
Yeah,
it needs to
you have
change.
to evolve. You have to evolve, just like life, right? So it's absolutely amazing to me that we have these archaic laws that are, in America's case, 200 odd years old, that we stick to, and we don't really make amendments to them. That we have these systems of old that everything in life changes, and it goes through seasons. It goes through adapt or die. It goes through progression, whether it's technology, the way we live. But yet we've got these old antiquated systems that we don't update as as we go to an effective measure, it becomes more red tape and it becomes more things to worry about.
And for the benefit of whom?
Well, it should be for the benefit of the people, right? It should be the benefit
No,
of the quality of life.
No,
No, I'm missing what you mean.
yes. So they unable to change with the old laws, old system, and is the benefit for the elite to rule. Because there are so many.
The system works for them, so why change it? Yeah,
Exactly.
of course. Yeah.
And you see this inability to reform, to change effectively. I think this is the biggest flaw in Western society, in Western system.
Yeah.
Democracy or not, doesn't matter. They don't change. How many years have we got these two parties, essentially two-party system?
Yeah.
Every 4 years they're fighting, they're bitching about each other. Yeah, in the parliament. What could be done? What could we change? Can we change anything? Yeah, can we change about this proportional representative where they got 10% of people that support Liberal Democrat, but they only got 2-3% of the seat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, can we change it? Can we have a reform? No. Inability to change. Ineffectiveness.
Is written into the system.
Because why? Who do they answer to? Do they answer to their sponsor first? Their party? Themselves? The people? The country? The last.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? That is a system. That is a flaw of the system. Biggest flaw. Why do you expect BP to sponsor you when you put a policy against them? So when they sponsor you, do they expect a policy that benefit them? So you're telling me, is this a bribe? Is this corruption? Is this open corruption?
Lobbying the government to do what you want them to do, yeah.
So you're paying for the benefit for your company.
No. Look, it's very interesting, right? And these are the kind of things that, without having conversations like this, I just, one, I don't think about them, and two, they're not brought to light because there isn't enough of this kind of thing where you're able to find out more information about what's going on and question it.
Because people are so brainwashed into accepting their life as the norm, as the best, as this perfect example that they need to export to the world.
Yeah.
Oh, why are you not living like this? Oh, you got no human rights.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh, you got no freedom. But yet, I only have one vote once every
4 years. Yeah.
Oh no! Last few years we got quite a few.
Yeah. Quite a few chances to actually get it right. Yeah, sure, of course.
But after this one vote, what voice do you really have?
Right. Yeah, sure. Of course.
What's the difference between you in the UK and a Chinese guy in China? Actually, the difference is you got one vote every 4 years. Check and balance. What check and balance? Yeah. What check and balance are there? As an individual, what can you actually do in the UK in terms of check and balance? So look at Tony Blair now with the Iraq war. We know there's no weapon of mass destruction, and where is he now?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah. So check and balance. You tell me. So tomorrow, maybe you go to sleep tonight. Tomorrow, there's another 100 missiles going on to Syria. Have you got any say about it?
Yeah, of course.
So
it's such an interesting point, and it's one of those things that has happened throughout my whole entire lifetime, and. What is the actual answer to that? Besides being in a situation where you take up a gun yourself and go fight the fight because you believe that that's the right thing to do, what can you actually do to influence the...
Nothing much, but at least wake up.
Wake up and be aware.
Wake up and be aware of it, and at least don't sponsor it. Don't encourage it.
Well, look, this is one of the reasons why I definitely want to talk to more people about more things, and I want to learn more, because I believe that you have to keep rolling, man. I believe you have to keep moving. You have to keep moving forward with your own intellect. You either do or you decay, and that's all there is to it. So I'm super happy, dude, that we finally got together and did this.
Yes, I know.
And we'll definitely do it again. I think that's a good place to kind of end it for now.
Yes. We cover so many topics in
Yeah,
this conversation.
and
There
yet-
is so much scope to go into in much more details.
And in the average dinner, we kind of we go 3-4 hours,
hours, yes.
into it. So I love it. As always, mate. I truly enjoy our conversations. And
thank you for inviting
thank
me.
you for being on the show, brother. And we'll call it here. Let's see if I can get this to work. Finally on the out, and take it easy.
Got me there, man.
Hey?